Hello, and welcome to another installation of From Inside, what has become a weekly and every now and then a semi-weekly dialogue with Dr. Sal Benanti. And tonight, this afternoon, it's me, one of the consultants, Kevin Simonson at the Center for Optimum Living. And as the email stated, and as we have been discussing, wondering sometimes these days who indeed is in charge. There's so much happening. There's seasonal changes. There's the doom and gloom, the news every morning, and almost as sets of waves in the ocean, clusters of events come and befall us. It can be environmental issues. It's a time of change right now. People are getting ready for the fall, and that means a lot of housing cleanup and preparation. And sometimes there is just so much going on, we don't take a breather. And we wonder just how are we handling it all? How are we juggling all these balls in the air? We have a number of suggestions as how one can alleviate some of that and actually turn it into an opportunity. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Benanti, and he will further describe our dialogue.
Well, let me start there then. A dialogue is a communication between two people, and those of you who are listening, watching, we hope that within the exchange that you hear between Kevin and I, exchanging our experiences, both professionally and personally, that you will hear something that awakens within you the part of you that can be in charge, that can be more in charge, the part of you that at some point in our lives, we stop listening to. It's a good question. Kevin was telling me about a situation in which that question arose within the dialogue he was having with a client. And Kevin, you state the question again. You said it perfectly.
When do we stop not knowing what we really know?
Yes. When do we stop not knowing what we really know?
When do we stop not knowing what it is deep down we really know and what we've probably known all along?
Right. And in those times, if we're not connected to that part of us, then we are reacting to, as Kevin was saying, all the things that are going on right now. We're reacting based on perhaps some learned behavior. And I'm not talking about the good ones, the learned behavior that kind of puts you at odds with yourself. That you're doing things, reacting in ways. There's a world of difference between reacting and responding. When you're reacting, the stimulus is in charge. Another catastrophe, another problem. And then you have your reaction, as opposed to a response being, there's a problem, up comes the surge of energy, and you know what it is. It's the surge of perhaps fear, and you follow it with your courage. And you're able to kind of say, oh, now I need to move through this in as helpful a way as possible. And I may not be able to get there for a while because I need a good cry, or I need a good shout, or I need to vent something, so then I can recenter myself in a position where I can respond most favorably to what's going on. Often we talk about who's in charge. It might be another person, and we'll talk about that a bit. It could be the voice in your own head that's saying, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't do this. Everyone's going to say this, everyone's going to say that, as opposed to an inner voice that's saying something to you that will put you on your path, not someone else's path, your path. And most importantly, that does not mean you're impulsive and coming out of ego and doing whatever the hell that you want to do. What it means is that you're coming from a deeper place, your heart, your soul, which is really where we connect, where you have compassion and care and love. That golden rule in which you're not being impulsive out of your ego, you're being responsive. You're being spontaneous from a place that has loads of good energy with it, loads of good intention, is doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. And then you're in charge. And that doesn't mean you're not in a dialogue, as we constantly are, with the world, with others. What do they bring? And then what do you bring? And so our point is that what we have the opportunity to do is to learn how to bring to the table, bring to life more of who we truly are inside. And it needs to be appropriate to blending with the person you're dealing with, or removing yourself from the person you're with, if that's a very toxic factor in your life, or serving, stepping in, healing, helping. So it's, yes, learning to shift from outer directed life to inner directed life.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned life. You've mentioned the word life many times here. We are part and parcel of the world, and we have the inner life, but we also all have a history, and we all come into the world and we have to immediately hit the ground running, And I know in my own family and my own upbringing, I had a brother and a sister. And looking back now, especially because of all the work we've done at the center over the many years I've known you. Looking back now, I see that, my brother and sister and I, we were completely different, and we all had a treatment plan for ourselves. And my sister became the wild one, My brother became the quiet one. And I would have to say, the obstreperous one and the fixer. I became the fixer. And these are all, no matter how many you want to come up with, we all have to have a strategy to get moving in this world. And there was one, my mother, of course, she had her own story. My dad had his own story. They are the World War II generation. My mother was raising 3 kids back at a time when there was not much recourse for a very smart woman. She was a housewife. And I know she was frustrated. And so every Friday was grocery shopping day. And she could buy groceries at that time. She could buy groceries for a family of 5 for about $30 for a week. But I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, and I was in the living room just sort of rocking back and forth on this little wooden duck that I still remember.
You still rock on it?
Day. The what?
Still rock on it?
Yes. A little rocking duck with a smile, perpetual smile, that ducks have. Mm. And there my mother was like, come on, Kevin, we got to go food shopping. And I clearly remember this notion came up from nowhere. It's like, I'm not going to go. I'm just going to rock on my duck here. I'm just going to rock on my duck until she came and she grabbed my arm and said, come on, we're going. But I look at that as an inner flame, an inner desire, an inner energy, a consistent pathway, a default pathway for myself that has gotten me through hill and dale my entire existence. It's given me what some on the outside might call a personality. Mm-hmm. But it's who I am. I'm not saying that I'm obstinate or contrarian, but I know that there's a certain all I can call it is a sort of an avenue of self-reliance for myself.
And what you referred to reminds me of a quote from the Gnostic Gospels, which was the Dead Sea Scrolls. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. Yeah. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And what is it that we bring forth? In that story you described, there's a little boy who's realizing he also has sort of a will.
Yes. Yeah.
He wants to be in charge of that moment. And as you learn, and I see sometimes in my granddaughter, 3.5 now, she'll almost pretend she doesn't hear you. Mm-hmm. That's what she wants to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so a creative life is one that one is able to be aware of. Yes, there is some kind of direction, or as I see it, path into life that starts from inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can begin there and then bring that into the world, if you will, or bring that into life and see how life responds. Does it welcome it? Does it not want it? Does it ask of me this or that? That essence that has a hard name, it's hard to describe, goes by many names. That essence needs to come into a form. In when we look at that essence as being goodness, love, God, the God voice, your deep self, your higher self, it goes by different names and no name at all. That essence, that stuff that came into the world when you were born and will go out of the world when you die, your life spirit. To bring that essence of that spirit into form is what we're doing when we wake up in the morning and we do our thing.
Mm-hmm.
That the form involves a body, which needs to be tended to, a mind that needs to be understood as a way of viewing the world and understanding the world, and emotions, which should be the energy moving through us out into the world. And so to be aware of that center point within us, to be aware of that center, puts us in position to then optimize the body, mind, and emotions that is our human construct in relation to the world of people, places, and things.
Yes.
And if it's coming from our heart and our soul, it intends and wants to be good, helpful, healing, inclusive of oneself. Many people with big hearts will jump over themselves and just be doing for everyone else, and then they're going and going and gone, as opposed to starting from within, that we all need to take care of ourselves so we can better take care of others. And I've said this before in some of the other episodes we've done. Well, I'm not talking about being self-centered. I'm talking about being life-centered. And if my spirit has come into this life, I need to live from that place inside of me and to bring that love into life, to fulfill my presence. That's why we're here. And for some people with certain personality structures that genetically and experientially from their childhood have taken form, if one is comfortable with that form and what you're bringing through, you find within your sphere of influence to be helpful, to be good, you have then found a form that has the potential to further and further fulfill your life. But if you find yourself in continual frustration and anger and feeling impotent or dominant, those are all boxes that can contain us and be manipulative, and not really helpful to others, as opposed to learning the ways that we can settle ourselves more in our heart and soul and listen to that inner voice that can be a guiding force in keeping us on our own path as we go through life.
And the anger, you say, and it's like, oh, why is this all happening to me? All of that is valuable symptomology. It's simply, if we can just pause and realize that this is just symptomology of something that's going on that's deeper. I mean, we've all had this, but the reason this topic came up was, a couple weeks back, for 2 weeks straight, the world, the people, places, things, the world of work, the world of the environment, things falling in the yard that needed to be cleaned up by, a tree service that was 3 weeks, 4 weeks beyond. Be here, be there. We need you up in the Catskills for something, getting back at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., to the point that I realized I hadn't even looked up at the sky in probably 5 days. So I sat and I realized, I'm getting angry. Why is all this happening to me? How long can I keep this going on? Like, what do they think I am? But all of that was so valuable because I realized, all right, what is this telling me? And sure, we all get pulled off the proverbial center. And what it was telling me that, we all get pulled away. We all get pulled away. life is cyclical. We come and go. The tides go out, the tides come in. The sun goes down, the sun goes up. Well, even though you didn't feel like you were in charge for those 2 weeks, somebody was. And somebody juggled all the balls. And somebody got it all done. And somehow you got through with it and you came back to yourself. And I could be proud. I could be proud that this is not isolated to just human beings. I mean, the natural world, it's like all of the waves coming into the shore are windborne, and they tend to collect, which is why surfers, they describe sets of waves. And there will be those lulls. If you've ever been at the ocean, there will be these lulls where like, that's kind of calm. And that's when you get the chance to look at the real water, and maybe sometimes look, I can see there's fish and rocks down there. There's I'm still here.
Being here, being in the world, being
yes.
And again, I have to always be careful because I say on our terms. But I mean, if I say I want to live life on my terms, if I'm coming from ego, then it's all about me. It's selfish.
Right.
It's not caring, compassionate love.
Mm-hmm.
If it's coming from a deeper place in me, which is what we learn to get to through various means. There is no one right way. Everyone really needs their own way. Then we come to a place that what is coming through is good stuff. And like you said before, we all get pulled off.
Yes, we all get pulled off.
What's the use of doing this stuff and learning this stuff if I'm going to get pulled off?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because that's life.
Yes.
And what happens is we get pulled off less and less, and it's less frequent, less intense, and the duration of our losing ourselves becomes less and less because we begin to learn. We begin to learn. I'm beginning to move too far off center. And again, it's not like a pinpoint, it's a zone, but I'm beginning to move, and it's all metaphorical anyway.
Yeah.
Where I'm beginning to move off center. Okay, I need to be a little more careful, full of care. I need to take care of this human form that's beginning to move off center into ego and manipulation and all the rest. And the things you talk about happening a week or two ago in your life, all of this is happening within all of our lives.
Yeah.
Or what is happening on all of our lives is, pandemic, politics, all of which is creating a whole other distraction. And in many cases, for many people, fears, environmental things, economical things, all kinds of stuff going on. And within that, we try to create some space of order where we can not simply cocoon ourselves underneath, but be in the center of that life in ways that make sense to you and what ways in which you are called upon, given the people, places, things around you, and your own instinctive, intuitive. Some of the best things I've ever done in my life arose against all logic. They arose, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm being called to do. And then the bad wolf comes in, how are you going to do that? Who do you think you are? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You can never afford, did you read the statistic? To saying, okay, I will hear those things, but I will check those out for myself and become what in grad school, the term that was always used as a critical thinker. And it doesn't mean that you criticize things. It means that you take a look at things.
Right.
Including someone who might be saying, you can't do that, or you need to do this, or you're wrong, or let me tell you how to think, or that's the wrong way to think, and, if you were raised in a family of highly, highly strict, disciplined parents, you might go one direction or the other, either that you live your whole life going yes or yes, sir, or you go the opposite extreme and you are totally defiant against everything.
Yeah, living in the woods.
Is drive things in extremes so that everyone hearing and you, Kevin, and myself can always place ourselves within those spectrums, getting ourselves to more of a centered position that
Get
says,
our bearings.
I can get bearings because I can be in in this direction, and I can be inclined in that direction. In other words, life can pull us apart. And at the same time, I can cultivate the strength to pull myself together and to put myself on my path, which is in relation to the people, places, things around me, which I have choice as to who they and how they will be to the fullest extent that I can.
Years and years ago, back when I was, you know, a strapping adolescent male, of course, my mom, who was still, I mean, you know, I'm just so thankful at what she did to raise the family that, of course, I could not appreciate back when I was 15, 16. And a wise person that I knew said, next time you go off somewhere with your mom, just observe how she goes about getting things. How does she go about getting what she wants? And I said, I'd never heard of anything like that before. So I did it. I did it for a couple of days. And rather than reacting to, I was like, Mom, you know, rather than, you know, the typical path of trying to, you know, expand my boundaries, I just observed how she, as a human being, went about getting through her day.
Yes.
And it was profoundly moving, yes, and educational, and it changed our relationship forever. But what I realized years and years, decades later, what I realized was that was not about her. That was about me. That was giving myself a break, yes, from my own, yes, from my own stories, my own worrying that I was developing. And I have to say, you know, thank God that happened, because it was a total new view for me to get some insight. And what I'm saying is there all of the methods and means and you know, ways that we talk about. Pick any one you want, but they all give us as an individual a little breathing room, a little, you know, a little moment to maybe relax, a little moment to take a breather, which allows that little flame that I talked about way in the beginning to just sort of burn a little brighter. Mm-hmm. And for the good things to come up and just like, and then we get up and we go on our way and take care of what we have to take care of.
Mm-hmm. And that light you speak of, that flame coming up,
yeah,
to put more light on what is around us. You know, then you started your story with to just observe, just watch, mm-hmm, see. You know, that's where it all begins. But how can I know what I'm dealing with? How do I know what's involved in my life unless I look at it through my eyes?
Yeah.
To find that place of pause where you can take a breath and just observe. Mm-hmm. What am I seeing? What are they doing? How am I feeling? I mean, for me, a simple practice is this lifting my spirits or is this bringing my spirits down? And in lifting my spirits is what's arising in me. And as they're speaking or doing, or as this is going on, what's coming into me. Mm-hmm. And I have choice as to whether I want to take it in or let it go. Mm-hmm. And I have choice as to whether I see it that way, because I truly do. I mean, we all have different vantage points, as Kevin mentioned before, our backgrounds, you know, our conditionings, our education, both formal and informal. And then you have all the genetic predispositions. And with epigenetics, genes you can turn on, genes you can turn off based on your thinking and your acting and your moving and your doing and your feeding and all the things we do to take care of ourselves so that we can be more physically in balance and calm and relaxed and more mentally clear and able to say, this is what I see. This is what I observe. Mm-hmm. And we use the word control, but as we go deeper, it really becomes influence. You know, what do I perceive and how could I be a good influence on the situation? Well, as I mentioned a time or two, and Kevin was just talking about this earlier today, the Buddhist notion of ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind?
Hmm.
And is it necessary? And before anything, any words come out of your mouth, before you do anything, is it truthful? Not ego truthful, but truthful meaning all of us. Is it in truth and goodness? Is it kind? Am I doing it in a graceful, gentle way? And is it necessary? And if it's not necessary, don't do it. If it's in a kind and gentle way with as much force or power that needs to be within that, even in very assertive kinds of moments, to keep it as kind as it possibly can be, meaning that you're doing unto others. You're in kind. There's a kindness going on there. So anyway, yes, who is in charge? A good practice for any of us to check in with ourselves is to maybe ask that simple question. Who's in charge right now? Is it the memories in charge? Is it what this person's saying? Expectations I hold in mind? Anyway, good luck. We're always here for you if you need us. And thank you, Kevin, as always.
Thank you.
Everything you do. Be well, take good care, vote wisely,
Yes.
and be well. See you next time.
Bye-bye.